A few stray drones flying off course? That's the story Russia wanted the world to believe. But here's the truth. 19 to 23 drones flying inside Poland for over 7 hours is not an accident. It's an attack. That single event triggered a chain reaction. Poland sealed its border. NATO invoked Article 4, and now the entire eastern flank is turning into a fortress. By the end of this video, you'll see why Russia's war is slipping out of control, and why NATO's new fortress could reshape Europe for decades. At midnight on September 24th, Poland reopened its border crossings with Belarus after an unprecedented 2-week shutdown. Major arteries like Brest-Tiraspol and Grodno-Kuznica had been silent, sealed shut. Other key crossings like Berestovica-Zupki and Svishlash-Semeniauka were also locked down during the closure, underscoring just how sweeping the blockade was. This was Poland's boldest move in decades, a full-scale border closure that began on September 12th, backed by a surge of approximately 40,000 troops and border guards. Warsaw made it clear this wasn't a return to normal. As the defense minister warned, these crossings could be closed again in an instant if Moscow repeated its provocations. Truth be told, this massive show of force was a direct answer to an act of aggression that pushed NATO to its limit. The Polish foreign minister, Radoslaw Sikorski, framed it perfectly. He said Russia's drones didn't veer off course by accident. They arrived precisely where they were supposed to. The lockdown was part of a multi-year $2.5 billion plan called the Eastern Shield, designed to turn Poland's border into a fortress. But this dramatic shutdown wasn't just about building a wall. It was a direct response to a terrifying new threat that came from the sky, a threat that forced NATO's hand and changed the security of the entire continent overnight. In a recent address, Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski stated, "This is not a political issue. This is a matter of Poland's security. A hybrid war has been declared on the entire European Union, and this border is now the dividing line between a brutal tyranny and a world of democratic values." But what happened in the skies was only the beginning. The real shock came when NATO's entire war posture changed overnight. The crisis exploded when Russian drones pierced Polish airspace. For 7 straight hours, Poland lived on the edge of war, with drones circling overhead and jets scrambling in the dark. This wasn't a lone drone getting lost. It was a coordinated, sustained violation of the airspace of a NATO country. The response was immediate. Polish F-16 fighter jets and Dutch F-35s scrambled into the night sky to intercept the intruders. In the end, at least 4 of the drones were shot down, their wreckage falling on Polish soil. This was a major escalation by Russia, and Warsaw didn't hesitate. It immediately invoked Article 4 of the NATO Treaty, a formal step taken when a member country feels its security is threatened. This triggered urgent consultations among all 32 allies. The result? Within 48 hours, NATO stood up Operation Eastern Sentry. This wasn't just a press release. It was a massive deployment of military power. American AWACS surveillance planes, refueling tankers, and F-35 stealth fighters formed the backbone of the operation. They were quickly reinforced by a coalition of allies, including the Dutch, Germans, French, British, Danes, Italians, Spanish, Swedes, and Czechs, who all sent fighters, transport aircraft, maritime patrols, and special forces. The mission was coordinated under NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Europe, or SECURE, who made clear that if Russia escalated further, the alliance could shift from Article 4 consultations to the Collective Defense Clause of Article 5, a threshold that would mean war. This wasn't just about putting more planes in the sky, it was a fundamental shift in posture. Within hours, bases across Europe, from Ramstein in Germany to RAF Lakenheath in the UK, were buzzing with activity. Heavy C-17 Globemaster transport planes became a non-stop airlift, moving advanced Patriot missile batteries and HIMARS rocket systems into forward positions in Poland. The thing nobody tells you is how fast this happened. NATO's Baltic air policing mission, once a routine patrol, was transformed overnight into a live-fire combat air patrol with hardened rules of engagement. Electronic warfare planes like the EA-18G Growler began flying constant orbits, jamming Russian communications and radar across the border in Kaliningrad. What many overlooked is that this went beyond simple defense. NATO established a de facto air defense bubble, a clear message that any military aircraft crossing the line would not be escorted away. It would be eliminated. This muscular, rapid deployment was designed to deliver a single, unmistakable message. The gloves were off. The days of treating Russia as a partner were officially over. It was now being treated as a hostile threat that had to be contained by overwhelming force. The same week, the provocations continued. Allied jets intercepted Russian Su-30 fighters carrying anti-radiation missiles over the Baltic Sea. Then, on September 19th, 3 Russian MiG-31 jets flew a full 12 minutes into Estonian airspace. Estonia also invoked Article 4, with its Speaker of Parliament declaring, "If we are truly forced to, we will be ready to use force against such incursions." The message was crystal clear. The days of passive intercepts were over. The new reality was a credible threat to shoot down any Russian aircraft that crossed the line. But shooting down drones is just reacting. NATO's real plan is to build permanent walls of steel across the eastern frontier. While fighter jets patrol the skies, on the ground, the Baltic States are building a fortress. This isn't just a fence. It's a massive engineering project designed to make any potential invasion a nightmare. Lithuania is rolling out a 30-mile deep defensive belt along its border. We're talking about vast parks filled with anti-tank ditches, concrete dragon's teeth, steel hedgehogs, and pre-planned minefields, all located just 22 miles from its capital, Vilnius. Estonia is adding 600 hardened bunkers, and Latvia is creating massive obstacle zones. Together, these projects form an unbroken 1,000-mile Baltic Defense Line, and this wall will have soldiers to defend it. In a historic move, Germany is stationing its first permanent foreign deployment since World War II in Lithuania. A full armored brigade of about 4,800 troops will be in place by 2027, equipped with 44 of the latest Leopard 2A8 tanks and advanced Spike anti-tank missiles. To fund this, Vilnius has pushed its defense spending above 3% of its GDP, with plans to reach 5 or even 6%. They even withdrew from the Ottawa Treaty in 2025, a move that legally allows them to deploy anti-personnel minefields. Here's why this matters. These physical barriers are designed to do one thing: buy time. As Baltic planners say, every mile of obstacles buys us time for reinforcements, above all American reinforcements crossing the Atlantic. They are turning their land into a death trap for any invading force, a clear signal to Moscow that the cost of aggression would be incredibly high. Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas recently explained the strategy, saying, "Weakness provokes aggressors, so weakness provokes Russia. We must make the price of any attack so high that they would never consider it. This is not warmongering, this is deterrence, and it is the only language our neighbor understands." While NATO rises, Russia's only real ally in the conflict, Belarus, is unraveling. The war economy deal that President Lukashenko made with Putin is now collapsing. While the official inflation rate eased to around 7.2% in August, food inflation was running near 10%. The government tried to fix the problem by putting strict price caps on potatoes, a staple of the Belarusian diet. The result? A massive potato shortage, with farmers having no incentive to grow them and grocery stores facing fines for empty shelves. The country is also facing a severe labor shortage. The situation has become so desperate that Minsk is now trying to invite up to 150,000 workers from Pakistan just to keep the factories running. Then came the fuel shock. Throughout August and September, Ukrainian drones hammered Russian oil refineries and key pipeline nodes. This forced Moscow to ration its own gasoline and turn to Belarus for help. But Minsk had a problem. It needed to protect its own annual gasoline demand of about 2 million tons. In a quiet act of defiance, Belarus curbed its shipments to Russia and instead diverted its surplus fuel to buyers in Asia where it could get a better price. At the end of the day, Belarus has become what one economist called a feeder economy, totally at Moscow's mercy. Lukashenko hitched his country's fate to Putin's war, expecting a quick victory. Instead, he got sanctions, inflation, and shortages, all while being drained by Russia's endless demands. Belarusian opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya has described the situation bluntly. "Lukashenko is trying to sell our independence and sovereignty. He is paying with pieces of our country, paying with our people's well-being for his own personal safety and for Putin's support. The Belarusian people are paying the price." And Belarus isn't Putin's only weakness. Deep inside Russia itself, sabotage has struck at the one lifeline he can't afford to lose. In mid-September, thousands of miles from the front lines in Ukraine, a bomb exploded on the Trans-Siberian Railway. Moscow quickly claimed the attacker was a Russian citizen who had been recruited by Kyiv. Regardless of who was responsible, the impact was immediate and devastating. The railway is Russia's main artery, connecting its industrial heartland in the west to its ports and partners in the east. The blast halted all east-west freight traffic. Trains packed with military cargo, ammunition, fuel, and supplies destined for the front lines were trapped mid-route. Frontline resupply was delayed, creating logistical chaos for the Russian army. But the damage went even further. The railway is also a crucial economic lifeline, carrying technology and trade to and from China. The attack severed these flows, forcing Beijing to quietly question just how reliable its Russian partner really was. In Washington, officials pointed to the blast as proof that Russia's much-hyped pivot to Asia is faltering, a strategic weakness that gives the US and Europe new leverage over both Moscow and Beijing. For Ukraine, the attack was a strategic masterstroke. It disrupted Russian military logistics, shook domestic stability inside Russia, and undermined Moscow's credibility with its most important ally all in one go. The Kremlin scrambled to make repairs and increase security, but the damage was done. The incident revealed just how fragile Russia's internal systems are. CIA Director William J. Burns has assessed Russia's internal state, noting, "Putin's war has been a strategic failure, eroding Russia's power and blighting its future. Disaffection with the war will continue to gnaw away at the Russian leadership, creating a once-in-a-generation opportunity to see its cracks and vulnerabilities." From the skies over Poland to the collapsing economy in Belarus, and now a sabotaged railway in Siberia, the picture is clear. Putin's war in Ukraine has ignited fires on multiple fronts that he can no longer contain, and he is now facing a stronger, more unified NATO that is writing the playbook for 21st century defense in real time. Is NATO's new fortress pushing Europe to the brink of war? Let us know below. Like and subscribe for more.